Adobe Bridge is one of those very powerful, yet sadly untapped pieces of the Creative Suite. We're going to launch it now to show you one of those ooh and ah features. One of the main reasons I love to live in Bridge and love to keep an eye out for beautiful landscapes that could be made into panoramics, even without a panoramic or macro lens. So I'm going to choose File, Browse in Bridge to launch Adobe Bridge. Once Bridge launches, it brings me to my user folder, and I want to get to our lessons for this video. So I'll double-click on the desktop, double-click on Project Files, and we're in Chapter 2. Now your Bridge preview may be smaller, so there's a slider down here at the bottom right to make the images in this folder larger or smaller, and you can see that I've taken a few shots that could be turned into a panoramic. We'll start with the Palace of Fine Arts, and I was actually taking this during a solar eclipse in San Francisco, but I think the eclipse had mostly passed at this point. I took 3 separate shots without a tripod, and if you look at each one, you get a slightly larger preview here. The third shot, and it may not be third in the proper order, I'd have to check the date created and the time, but the third shot is clearly lighter than the first 2. If you look at the palace, you can really see it. That's all right. Photo Merge will stitch them together, scale them, and color balance all 3 shots. So I'm going to select Eclipse 99, 100, and 101. If 99 is selected, I could simply hold down Shift and click on 101. Shift always selects from the first item to the last item you clicked on. So if there was a 99, 99A, B, 100, 100B, and then 101, it would grab everything in between. There's no need to hold down Shift, click, and click. I could simply have the first one selected, Shift, click on the last one. Just a little Kelly tech tip. Now, here comes the magic. Under the Tools menu, down to Photoshop, is Photo Merge. And I don't even need to mess with these defaults. Auto usually works beautifully. So I'll just leave everything on the default and click OK. And this computer is pretty beefy. I do have a decent amount of RAM. If you have less than 2 gigabytes, this may take a lot longer. Ideally, I recommend 4 to 8 gigabytes. 4 is a minimum, 8 is preferred if you're doing a lot of complex stitching like this, or 3D, or working on very large images. Each shot was 28 megabytes from my Nikon N1 camera. But I forgot to wait for the ooh and ah. Here we are. If I zoom in, it may look like there's a little ripple in the image where this bird is flying through. But if I hit Command plus or Control plus a couple times to zoom in, or for the mouse people, View zoom in, there is no seam whatsoever. I also love the spacebar trick to click and drag to pan around your image. Ooh, there I could see a little reflection of the eclipse, I believe. So looking at the right, in my Layers panel, I have 3 layers. And I'm very happy with the conversion, but if I wanted to peek and see how it stitched everything together, technically I have a layer and a layer mask. I can hold down Shift and click on the black and white layer mask thumbnail, and it temporarily disables the mask. Shift click again, it's back on. So you could see a bit of the scale and the blending and this beam of light that came through perfectly, but if I had left the original shot, wouldn't have lined up at all. I'll Shift click on the second one, and there you could see the big color shift and some scaling that Photoshop did, and even these Newton rings, which I really like. I always call them Antoine rings. I don't know why, but on the first anti-Newton spray I used on a scanner, it just read to me like Antoine spray. But I do know what they're called. It's just a Kelly funny phrase. I'm very happy with this result. So what I'm going to do now is View, Fit on Screen. I will go to my Layer menu and choose to flatten this image, because this is a big file. The flattened file size is 161 megabytes. So again, if you don't have a lot of RAM performing this exercise on this big file, may not be your best bet. I'm going to jump to a smaller set of images next, so you could just wait for that. The layered file is 295 megabytes. I don't need the layers. I'm very happy with what Photoshop did. So under Layer, at the very bottom, or close to the very bottom, is Flatten Image. And when you flatten, both sizes are the same, or roughly the same. There might be some optimization done in the PSD format. The left side is usually a TIFF file size, and the right side is typically your Photoshop file size. Now I will hop to my crop tool. And for this exercise, I'm going to just keep it simple and crop out all the white. But there are ways to have Photoshop make up new water for you or new sky to get more of the magnitude of a space. But for the sake of time, we'll just crop to this. I'll press Return or Enter or double-click to perform the crop. I missed a hair up there, but I'm down to 69 megs. I'll just do a little crop again and just pull down a hair. And if it's jumping on me, a little power user trick, the Control key, not Command for Mac users, but Control on both Mac and Windows, turns off the snapping so I can get a very small crop without losing too much of the image. And there we have it. So I will do a Save As, and I will call this Palace End, and I'm going to save as a native Photoshop format. I don't want to re-JPEG these because it would compress an already compressed file, so I would lose quality. I could go to TIFF, the tagged image file format, and do a little compression that doesn't damage the file. But for now, we'll do Photoshop. Most all of my files stay just in PSD or Photoshop native format. And then I'll come back to Bridge, File, Browse in Bridge, and I'll try the next series of images, Hetch Hetchy Dam up in Yosemite. So if I look at this, this is actually the middle. I think that is the right side of the image. No, that's the left. And these two are the right? I may not even know. Photoshop will figure it out for me. It has a very complex algorithm which compares overlapping pixels, RGB values, and contrast edges. So I was on Hetch Hetchy 04, and I shift-clicked on Hetch Hetchy 01, and I will run Tools, Photoshop, Photo Merge. And I'll leave the defaults and click OK. And let's see which side is which. I actually put these in a different order intentionally to see how Photoshop would do. I had a student do 64 independent shots of the Grand Canyon into one seamless panoramic. It's astounding how complicated it can be and how well Photoshop does. The only thing I've had issue with is shots of just water and sky where there aren't a lot of high contrast edges. So if I zoom in with Command plus or Control plus or View Zoom in, it may look like there's some stitching, but that's just a screen artifact. This is perfectly seamless. And I can use my scroll bars to scroll over. Nice little waterfall in the background. So this was the left side. Then we have the middle. And then these two pieces were stitched together. They were separate shots. If I hop back over to Bridge, this shot was part of that shot, so they actually are reversed. I just use Command Tab on the Mac or Alt Tab on Windows to hop back to the last program. And I will do View, Fit on Screen. My layered file is massive, so Layer, Flatten Image, and then I'm still on the Crop tool, so I will just pull in a bit and crop out the white. Absolutely love this feature, and I use it all the time. Even shots I've taken with my iPhone, it will stitch together in a gorgeous panoramic. And although I shouldn't do this, I'm going to throw in a last little bonus. If I use the Quick Selection tool and select this blank white space, and I'll try to go slow, but choose Select, Modify, Expand by 10 pixels. 10 seems to always be my magic number that works well. I can choose Edit Fill, leave it on Content Aware, which is the default, and click OK, and Photoshop will make up new image data in that spot. It's like magic, even the trees. So select, deselect, and there we have a gorgeous, seamless panoramic taken from 4 independent shots without a tripod. And on this image, I'll do a save as. And this is Hetch Hetchy, which I always have to double check the spelling on. And it was already on TIFF, so I'll leave it on TIFF. And a little bit of LZW, Lempel, Ziv, and Welt compression works beautifully. So this has been creating seamless panoramics using Adobe Bridge. Get out there and try it on some of your own images.